Hey, friends, I've got breaking news about Israel right now and what happened with the beepers that exploded in Beirut that touched so many Hezbollah members. I have an exclusive interview with David Tal. Watch it, share it, subscribe. You're going to learn a lot. Shalom, everybody. Shalom. This is Olivier with Shalom and Messiah. I'm doing another program today. I was not planning on doing anything today, but I'm going to do it today and post it today because there's so much happening in the news. And you probably already heard what we're going to talk about, but you will get details that you will not get in the news. I know that for sure because I know that my friend on the program will tell you stuff that nobody else knows. So I'm excited to have him. It's always great to have him. David Tal is with me on the program today. David, welcome to the show.
Well, it's really fun to be here, and I know the circumstances are a little bit weird, but there is an element of yes, this is good news, I think, as far as we're concerned.
So what we're going to talk about, and by the way, I will put David's information in the description. But David, how can people get a hold of you if they want to get more information, more videos?
Well, first of all, look at the title down there. The name is David Tal, and the label is the Balagan Connection. Balagan in Hebrew, Yiddish, and Russian, and Persian, by the way, means mix-up, circus, things that don't go according to plan. And and I like to connect all these different aspects in regards to Israel. So the Balagan Connection. Just Google that or David Tal, whatever you want, and you will find me talking about what's going on, which is getting more and more amazing by the moment. More and more balagan. Definitely more and more.
I was watching a show in Hebrew the other day, Hostages, and you probably saw it, and on Netflix or on whatever one of the networks, and I don't speak Hebrew, but I caught a word here and a word there, and it was a hostage situation. Everything that could go wrong went wrong, and I heard the word balagan in almost every single episode, at least 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, it is. It is a beautiful word that is completely contextual. We need to start using something like that because, I mean, think about this. Your election system in the United States is one big balagan.
Yeah.
And I just say that and everybody understands exactly what I mean.
That's right. That's right. Okay, so let's get into it right away. Excuse me. We heard some news here. The whole world heard some news about some beepers or pagers. I used to have one years ago that exploded. And people got maimed and got they lost, some of them died, and so give us the background. What happened? It was yesterday or the day before? It was yesterday, right?
For Israel the day before yesterday, but yeah, for us yesterday. But let's go on. Hezbollah is a terrorist organization embedded in southern Lebanon, taking over Lebanon itself. It runs Lebanon. It is an Iranian proxy.
How long has Hezbollah been in Lebanon now? 30 years?
Probably from we pulled out. I'm going to have to double check, but I'm going to say in the late 90s. So from the early 2000s. Somewhere around there, but okay. Double check my numbers.
Okay.
I was in southern Lebanon in 81, 82, 83 as a little baby tank commander, then as a lieutenant, then as a captain. And that was the situation. We pushed the PLO, the Palestine Liberation Organization, out of southern Lebanon, and the Hezbollah actually settled into the power vacuum that was created after that. But that's a whole different story. We can go into that, how deep as you want about that. But basically, Hezbollah is sitting in southern Lebanon. They're embedded within the civilian population. Israel, in order not to carpet bomb every time they fire a rocket, not to carpet bomb a huge village, has been targeting Hezbollah operatives and commanders and leadership. They do that mostly by hacking in or finding the position on the telephone and sending a bomb to the telephone, sending a rocket to the telephone number that this Hezbollah operative is using, which is considered a more tactical, well prepared, and moral way of fighting an enemy.
It's a very there's like a certain surgical precision to it. Now, was it a Hezbollah operative that they targeted in his bedroom in a house in Iran?
It was a Hamas operative.
Oh, Hamas. But Same idea.
But same idea. But no, that was a different kind of targeting. There, they managed to infiltrate the Republican Guard, and they put a small explosive charge in his mattress. And it was there for 2 weeks, waiting for him to come and lay down his head and go to meet his maker. No, this is something else. The head of the military wing of the Hezbollah in Lebanon, for instance, was taken out when he was with his mistress on the 4th floor. And he had his telephone with him, and we sent a munition towards the telephone location. Literally went in the window and hit his telephone, and he was killed. So the Hezbollah has been trying not to use telephones anymore.
So you're saying the telephone is the actual target that the missile is aimed at?
Exactly.
So if the man, and this is a stupid question, if the man is in a hotel room and he forgets his phone in the lobby and he goes to his bedroom and they shoot a missile, the missile will go into the lobby.
Exactly. But usually there's an added on layer to make sure where he is. And there's an operative. For instance, in Tehran, there was somebody who climbed the tree with the binoculars to see that he was actually in the room before he pressed the button.
Makes sense.
Now, again, all of these are indicative of a moral standard that Israel is using.
I know.
Then Hezbollah says, wait a minute, we can't use telephones anymore. And somebody came up with an amazing idea to start using pagers. The old style pagers that we had when we were...
I never liked them. I had one when they came out because of a business. Like somebody called me, I got to call them back. I never liked them.
Yeah, but here's the thing.
Worked.
The pager doesn't transmit. It only receives.
Right.
So if you're looking at it from their point of view, they're saying, wait a minute, this is not transmitting, it is only receiving, much less this. You don't need the whole mobile network.
More security.
And actually, sometimes the pagers even get their messages through satellite, okay? So they say this, from a security point, will be safer for us, so Israel doesn't use our phones against us. So they bought up something like 5,000 pagers. One of the stories that we're hearing here is they bought them from AliExpress.
Okay.
I don't know if that's true, but the manufacturer is in Taiwan, and it is a beeper, Motorola beeper. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh, sure.
But the pagers went through Hungary. And somewhere between Hungary and when they were supplied and handed out to all the operatives in Lebanon, somebody managed to plant a very small amount. And I'm talking, I'm talking about grams of high explosive on each one of these pagers. And then they were handed out to all the Hezbollah operatives that were high enough on the totem pole to receive these pagers. And the day before yesterday, somebody sent a message to all of these people saying, here comes a message from HQ. Literally, it says Hezbollah HQ. The people picked up, a lot of them did, some of them did not, picked up their pagers to see what the message was, and the pager exploded.
All simultaneously?
Simultaneously at the same exact moment. We're talking 4, about 3,000. Oh. Well, 3,800 wounded. Okay. They're talking about 5,000 pagers altogether, but 3,800 wounded. The death toll we're not sure about is probably not very high, but serious wounds, including, for instance, the Iranian ambassador to Lebanon. Now, Lebanon and Hezbollah is not the same. Lebanon is a state, Hezbollah is a terrorist organization, but the Iranian ambassador to Lebanon had a Hezbollah pager, and he was one of those who was wounded, according to what we're hearing from El Manag. He lost one eye and is seriously wounded in the other. So a lot of them were blinded, by the way.
David, you mentioned not that many casualties, but think about the psychological aspect of something like this. Israel is sending a message. We know where you are. We can reach you without even stepping foot in your country. Don't mess with us.
I'll add on another level to what happened the other day, and then let's go into what it means, I think. And that is that today, 14 Hezbollah operatives were actually killed and something like 250 wounded because they threw the pagers away and went back to using their communication system. I don't know, probably their phones, and same
Or
thing happened.
maybe walkie-talkies.
Maybe walkie-talkies, and the same thing happened, and 14 people were killed because those exploded during the funerals for those who died yesterday. So that is what happened. That is, how do you say, the actual details. Nothing like this has ever been done before. I mean, this is an intelligence operation second to none.
I know it sounds like a movie. It sounds like a spy movie, a James Bond operation, and but it happened. It happened in the Middle East in the last couple of days. And today, just before we did the show, I find out that they went, like you just said, they went back to their other modes of communication, and those exploded as well. If I was anybody from Hezbollah, I would go like, guys, the only thing we use from today on is 2 tin cans and a string.
One of the things Netanyahu said to Nasrallah way back, that if you attack Israel, we're going to push you back to the Stone Age.
Wow.
And to a certain extent, there is something happening.
Now, go ahead.
The jokes are terrible. And I'm talking not about our jokes. I'm talking about what's going on in the Arab world, because Hezbollah is being ridiculed up and down the scale by the Arabs, okay, for what happened.
But what's amazing is that we've heard since October 8th, when Israel started to respond to the attack on October 7th, we've heard that, what they can, and in a sense, what they have done in Gaza is nothing compared to the level of the intensity that what could happen in Lebanon, a full-blown war with tunnels and a lot more ammunition. But in a sense, even before any of that happened, and we've had rockets come over the border regularly from Hezbollah. We don't want to minimize that, but in a sense, they're trying to send a message before Hezbollah makes a big move, and I certainly hope it works. But I was going to say something else. So I mean, they basically how they going to communicate. And also, I remember I was going to ask you. You and I are talking like we know for sure that this was, orchestrated by Israel. Is this official? Because as of now, nobody has claimed it from Israel.
No, nobody has actually tested it, and nobody has claimed. Israel has not claimed, but everybody you talk to on the foreign side, I like to say this, according to foreign press, okay. Nobody else could have pulled this off. There's even questions whether the United States of America could have pulled this off.
But who else would even want to do this on behalf of Israel in the world we live in?
Well, don't forget that these are Arabs, these are Muslims, and infighting is as complex as anything else. For instance, I wouldn't put it across the Saudis that if they could pull off something like this in order to hit one of Iran's proxies, then they would. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, we know what Saudi Arabia does to people who they feel that they are against. I think last time he was cooked after he left the embassy in Turkey, but things like that can happen. So what I'm trying to say is, there's enough of, I think in legal terms, you call it plausible deniability, that Israel is floating in to say, listen, we didn't say we did it. So if you want to retaliate against us, but Hezbollah has come out officially and said it was the fault of Israel.
Okay, so we don't know for sure, but there's no reason to believe that it's not them. And again, who could pull off something like this?
Well, you know the famous joke about the virus that went into the centrifuges in Iran. Remember the computer virus that actually
Yeah.
took out Iran's centrifuges? It's called, I think it was SexNet or SexNet. Okay. And when they checked the virus under the microscope, they saw that it was circumcised, and that's how they realized who did it. Am I
Okay.
getting in trouble here?
No, you're not getting in trouble. No, but I have so many circumcision jokes, and I'm not gonna use them. I'm not gonna tell them.
There you have another one there.
What? Oh, there I have another one. Yes, yes, yes. And I always tell people all the time, to if you want to make sure you make, to get kosher bacon, you have to circumcise the pig.
Yeah.
But that's enough. Is enough circumcision jokes. Okay, you had
Okay.
one, I had one. Let's keep moving.
Can
So
we get can we get over the name jokes too? Because the Arab world is having a fit with this. Okay. They say that the Mossad agent that pulled this off, his name is Avi Beeper.
well, they also say his name was Motorola.
There you go.
So yeah, I mean those. Yeah, let's move on. I don't want to do because I really there's a lot of jokes going on, but we need to keep this serious because at the end of the day, lives are taken, and even though, and I mentioned that to you earlier, and I've said it before, even though we don't like those terrorists and what they're doing to Israel and how they're like savages. Anybody, including those savages and what they've done on October 7th, and they need Jesus. So if there's a chance that
Agreed.
they can find Jesus when it's not too late, that's always going to be my preferred choice. But that enough said about
Okay.
that. Now, what does that mean? What happened in Lebanon yesterday? What does that mean in the bigger scope
All
of,
right.
of, of a war between Israel and Lebanon in any moment now?
Can I give you two more pieces of information that are relative to the actual attack? Because
Yes.
this is, I think, partly interesting. If Israel had that ability and they were totally not into it, I mean, they didn't realize it, why did we use it now? Which is a really good question. And there was a lot of questions about that. I mean, again, we have the capability, you have the capability. But when I heard about it the first time, I actually thought that this would be the opening shot of a much bigger full out attack that is brewing. It's in the air that Israel will attack the Hezbollah. I mean, why did you use that capability now and not connect it to something deeper? And a piece of information that I picked up a little while ago was that it wasn't by chance. First of all, we understand what that means. We'll talk about what it means in the middle. But we think that it was pulled off now is because there were two Hezbollah operatives that realized what was going on. One of them was assassinated somehow. I don't know who did it. Okay. But the problem is that there was a worry that the other one would blow the whistle. And the minute that happens, then the whole thing is not,
So they had to pull the trigger right away and before something would be known.
in order to achieve the effect. And let's talk about the effect. I know we were joking about the names and we were joking about, but I live in the Middle East. The Middle East is all about pride and honor. Hezbollah is the pride and honor of the Muslim world. This is the organization that is standing up to Israel, like you said, 100,000. They're standing up. They're pushing back against Israel. And they have now been deeply shamed, which
Humiliated. Yeah.
has humiliated, which has political and ramifications. I mean, if every young Muslim living in the Middle East was dressing up as Hassan Nasrallah, the head of the Hezbollah, on Halloween, well, they don't have a Halloween, but you get the idea. He's
Right.
he's the role model. Then now he is a joke. And he's a joke after the last attack against Israel. I don't know if you remember, where they shot off something like 200 rockets, and the only thing they managed to do was kill a couple of chickens, and the whole Arab world was up against it. So what I'm saying is the erosion of radical terrorist Islam as a role model for the downtrodden Arabs in the world, that in itself is, I think, as important from a political, even a military point of view, than the actual effect of the bombs.
Okay. But is that going to? Do you think that we're starting to see, and rightfully so, I have no problem with it. We're starting to see Israel becoming more proactive than reactive. I mean, more offensive than defensive. Israel's been defensive since 1948, except that right now, I mean, for the most part, but except right now, we're starting to see things where Israel is saying, okay, let's make a move. They'll make a move. They did one in Iran. And again, when you compare, if you do a list of all the wars and you compare everything, the way that Israel handles herself it's probably the most moral, the most ethical, non-genocidal society or ideology or whatever you want to call it. And yet, of course, the opposite is being preached by most of the world right now. But is so we see Israel going more on the offensive. And do you think it's sending a message to those guys that something big is going to come soon, and they're going to? I mean, are we on the edge of that full blown war that we've been fearing for a few months now?
Well, first of all, we are on the edge of a full-blown war with Hezbollah, which might escalate and turn into a full-blown war with Iran and all of its proxies, which is what the United States of America, this Biden administration, has been fearful of more than anything else. And that's the reason they've been holding back. Let's start off with something in the Hezbollah, and I think it's really important to make sure that everybody understands this. Israel had no war with the Hezbollah on the 7th of October.
No.
We did not start it.
And Israel is not occupying Lebanon.
We're not occupying a piece of Lebanon. We have no beef with Lebanon. Let's make that clear that Israel did not start a war with Hezbollah or with Lebanon or anything connected. What Iran did is that when Hamas started the war in Gaza, Iran decided to use its proxy Hezbollah to put pressure on Israel. But it doesn't want to lose the proxy, meaning it doesn't want to go into full-fledged war with Israel, because at the end, Israel might be hurt, but Hezbollah will be destroyed. And they know that. So they're using the Hezbollah just to prick and to point and to intimidate as much as anything.
And it's a war of attrition. It's like, how many people have been displaced for how long now? You can't keep going like this.
Exactly. But I don't want to correct, but maybe I like to call it a war of intimidation and not a war of attrition.
Okay.
They're not going to finish off all of the rockets that Israel has. We're not going to finish off all the rockets that they have. But we're intimidating each other. We're making sure that they're on their back feet. And Hezbollah's been, I think it was I think it was Henry Kissinger who called it the diplomacy of brinkmanship. He's walking on the brink, being very careful not to cross over too much, because if Israel pulls out all the stops, then we're going into a different level. But achieving its goal by keeping Israel on its back foot, by just pricking and pushing enough that Israel has to defend itself. People are displaced. They can say we are hitting Israel, but they're not actually in a full-blown war. It is the bully tactic.
Now, I don't necessarily want you to feel like you have to go into a full-blown political discussion here, but do you think this whole thing would have been handled differently if Bibi was not in leadership right now? If somebody different from a different party in Israel would be in leadership?
The short answer on that is no. I mean, one of the things that people, I think, don't really understand about Israeli politics is that we don't always agree, but we don't agree on the edges. But there's a large center area that everybody in Israel agrees with. I might not like Bibi, but most of what Bibi is doing, I would probably agree with. And I would do it the other way. If, let's say, for lack of a better word, Gantz was in power, or let's say Lapid even was in power, I think the difference between what they did and what they didn't do wouldn't be all that great. So we could talk about the edges, but I think on the middle. So I don't like Bibi. I very much don't like his wife. We are Jewish. We always complain and we always fight with each other. But on the whole, I think that this is the situation, and anybody who would be in power in Israel would be in the same situation. But I will say this. I don't believe that if President Trump was in power for this time, that this would have happened, not in Gaza and not in Ukraine, and Gaza and everything that happened as a result of that. So that's a different kind of discussion. But I do want to say something that hatches on to what you said before. We have very, very deep moral regard or moral rules or moral expectations from ourselves about how we use weapons, how we use violence, how we use force. An Israeli soldier from day one is hammered into what we call the code of conduct or the sanctity of weapons. Now, that being said, your weapons are for use against your enemy. They're not for use against your enemy's wife or daughter or son. Sometimes, in some cases, his wife will be hurt, but that is not what we want, and we will take huge amounts of time, effort, and money in order for that not to happen. Classic example, when we took out the deputy head of the PLO living in Tunisia, meaning Yasser Arafat's number 2 man was taken out in Tunisia by an Israeli SEAL team that literally got on a submarine, landed on the beach, walked into his villa, assassinated him in Tunisia. But what they did before they shot him was to put his wife and children in another room and lock the door. That is Israel. That brings us.
Didn't Israel drop leaflets in Lebanon 3 or 4 days ago?
Exactly. That's what we do. That's the way we are. And one of the things I want to stress to people who don't really understand the deepness of this, we're not doing it because of the Palestinians. We're not doing it because we care about the Palestinians. I mean, in a deep sense. And there's a moral aspect to this too. We're doing this because we care about us. Because who we will be if we lose that sense of morality in using our weapons. Meaning, as much as I care about the Palestinian civilians, women, children, whoever, by the way, and I care about their civilians more than they care about them.
Yeah.
I care about the civilians in Lebanon more than the Hamas, the Hezbollah cares about them. The reason I am careful about Lebanese civilians, the reason I'm careful about Palestinian civilians is because I have to look myself, my father, and my son in the eyes and say, this is the person who I am. And in extension, we as a culture, and this is so deeply Jewish, this morality comes from in us and not for the enemy or not outside us. And that connects to this event too, because this was probably one of the most moral attacks on an enemy that you can put together.
Very selfless, and and when you look at even on a broader scale, you look at the Jewish mindset and the idea of tikkun olam, repairing the world. Jewish people don't want to take over the world; they want to make the world a better place. They always want to make so you see so much innovation, so much coming from Israel and from Jewish people, because again, like you said, the value of the sanctity of human life and the value of human life, and in general, the desire to make the world a better place. And the opposite of that is what we see from Israel's enemies right now in the Middle East. And I don't.
Well,
go ahead.
Since we are Jewish, let's connect to something else. I mean, you know that during the Seder Pesach, there's a part where the children of Israel were rejoicing at the soldiers of the Pharaoh that were killed when the Red Sea closed up. And I don't remember which rabbi said, it is not right for you to rejoice. God, told us, these are my, creations that are dying in the sea. There's no reason to rejoice here. Right. And what I'm trying to say is, I'm not rejoicing even in the Hezbollah terrorists that were killed but they have vowed to destroy Israel. They are, by definition, the enemy. The enemy has vowed to destroy and kill, and they've done that as efficiently and as capably as they possibly can, which means that from any moral standpoint, they are a military target. And look what Israel did. It took out the military targets only. I mean, if you're not Hezbollah, you won't have one of those pagers. If
You saw that clip of that man in the fruit market that got hit by the the beeper that exploded, and he fell to his knees, or I don't know if he's dead or if he's definitely wounded, and the woman with a hijab next to him walked away. She just walked away. She was
no,
untouched, and they were within like 2 feet of each other. So the surgical precision is mind blowing. But you know what? When you talked about the Passover, it reminded me of one.
well,
Oh, go
yeah,
ahead. No,
okay.
before you forget.
Israel could have put more explosive in each of these devices.
Right.
They didn't. And I think, and I believe deeply
Good point.
that the idea was to actually do this. And again, I don't think they wanted to kill all of Hezbollah, but they have totally messed up. And we can talk about what this means now when we get. But go to the Seder Pesach.
No, I was reminded that it is so much in the Jewish psyche to do the right thing and to respect life that the second cup in the fourth cup of Passover is the cup of plagues, and David, that when we do Passover, we fill the cup and it overflows because a full cup is a symbol of joy.
Joy and prosperity.
And prosperity, and that joy that we have in all cups of Pesach it goes through the entire Passover ceremony, the Seder, except the cup of plagues. We take drips of each of the 10 plagues before we consume that cup, and that's another symbol of God saying to the Jewish people, yes, you're going to rejoice about your freedom, you're going to rejoice about what I inflicted on your enemies, except that cup you will not rejoice on that one, because it's not right to rejoice over the fate of your enemies. That's my job, that's not your job. And so I think it goes way back deep into the Jewish mind.
And how can our enemies say that we're not a moral army when we go to such lengths in order to, safeguard the lives of our enemies, our civilians?
Absolutely. Well, do you have anything else to tell us that's important? Because I want to wrap this up. I don't want to make it too long. People have so many things to watch.
One more thing. Okay, the question is what's going to happen now?
Yeah.
Okay, what is the Hezbollah going to use for communication? And I think that's a problem. I think in many ways, this was a terror attack that Israel used to terrorize its enemy. Meaning it is, I'm going to say in a weird way, this is a Gideon style attack. I don't know if you remember when Gideon attacked the Midianites. Okay, and he explained to the men, you put a torch in a jar. And when the time comes, you break the jar and you blow the shofar and you make noise. This was that kind of attack, because this was an attack that made the enemy freaked out. They're freaked out right now. They're totally freaked out.
So as soon as I post this and people hear you say that Israel did a terror attack, all the anti-Semites are going to go, yeah, well, we've told you that for decades, that Israel is a terrorist.
So here's the thing, okay?
So make sure you give us some clarity on that.
All right.
No. I agree with you, but I just want to
Let's start off with the caveat. I'm not sure Israel did this.
Okay.
Whoever did this, okay, has put the fear of a cell phone. Do you understand that if you're a Hamas operative, this is a scary thing right now?
Right.
That is
Hezbollah,
the kind of,
Hamas, everybody, yeah.
Okay, and I'm going to say in extension even more, and maybe in a nutshell. The problem with warfare that we've been talking about is that low tech has overcome high tech, meaning missile warfare has allowed the Houthis in Yemen that have in the middle of a famine with nothing, I mean, camels and donkeys, but they get enough missiles that they can actually close off an international waterway, which is another story that we can talk about it. So the Hamas, okay, low tech. When they couldn't overcome Israel's high tech, they drove a tractor through the fence. Okay, so what's happening Hezbollah is the same. Hezbollah doesn't have the kind of military that Israel has, but has enough to be able to make a problem, a military problem for Israel. So what we keep on saying is that the technology has been overset by low tech players all over the world, and we're seeing this in all kinds of different places. What happened just now, though, is technology has come back to its place because what was done here was a major technological feat. Remember, after the intelligence to get where the beepers are, the pages are,
Right.
and the how do you say, the spyware to
Mm-hmm.
get into the supply chain and make the changes,
Right.
you needed the technology to send a signal that will impact all of this at one time.
Right.
So the technology has been played, and here's the thing: that signal comes from a satellite. That satellite can be over Iran. That satellite can be over Yemen. That satellite can be over anywhere in the world. And I think to a certain extent, Israel actually has sent a message to our enemies. Yes, technology can still be used against them. And when I mean terror, that's what I meant. Put the fear of the technology in their hearts.
And you earlier I said something, and you say you don't like to correct, or you corrected me, and I agreed with what you said. I'm going to correct you on something. I'm going to disagree slightly with you. And after all, you and I are both Jews, so we should disagree a lot because two Jews,
Yeah.
three opinions. But we're brothers in the Lord as well. So I would be more inclined to say that assuming Israel is behind it, I would be more inclined to say that this was an act of psychological warfare more than terrorism. And I'll tell you why I'm saying this. Because if it was pure terrorism, the beepers would have been exploding with more charges and
You're right.
indiscriminately in the marketplace and kill 15 people. They don't care. As long as we get the bad guy, I don't care what happens. That's terrorism. But psychological warfare is like, guys, it's not so much that you all died, it's that we touched every single one of you with surgical precision. We can do it again on a bigger scale, anywhere, anytime, for any reason. I think that's more what I would call
And
it.
I will stand corrected on that. I will accept that because it wasn't made just to make, it was made to pass a message to everybody.
Yeah.
But that message is not only for the Hezbollah. That message, I think, and what Israel has been
All
doing
the
lately,
enemies.
has been passing the message to Iran. And I think what we're doing is we're passing a message to all the bad guys. I know it sounds kind of comic books to say that, but I think all of the bad guys, no matter where they were, or who they are, and where they are, should be worried. Now, let's,
Absolutely. Yeah.
but
So I want to wrap this up. What our viewers, what should they focus their prayers on right now? Because a lot of people reach out to me and to you and to
Yeah.
all of our friends, and we're praying for the safety of Israel, the peace of Jerusalem. What should the friends, our friends, what should they specifically pray for? Give us three.
okay. First of all, the Prince of Peace is needed in the Middle East, on wide, and
Amen.
in Israel specifically.
Yeshua.
And yes, Yeshua, and we say Sal Shalom, Prince of Peace,
Prince of Peace.
and we need that shalom. I'm going to start off with that because that's more than anything. Um, we need Christians to reach out to Israelis and to Jews right now with the name Jesus, the peace of Jesus, the love of Jesus, because that's what more people need right now. Two,
Absolutely.
wisdom. This is as much a chess match as it is a military campaign. Our leaders need wisdom. And again,
Yeah.
whether I agree with everything that Benjamin Netanyahu does or doesn't do, or Ben Gvir or whoever, okay, he is the one making the decisions. These decisions impact all of our lives. It has to be done right. So what I'm trying to say is wisdom for our leaders here and all over. And the third one, I know it sounds kind of weird. Think about the elections in the United States because that is going to impact Israel as much as anything else. As we know, this administration has been holding Israel back in Gaza and is holding Israel back right now in Hezbollah. And I think that is a problem. And the administration in the United States is really, really critical. So I pray that whatever happens in this elections will be what God wants to happen.
Well, it will be what God. It
Well,
will
yeah.
be God's. But sometimes God, like in the case of Saul with the Israelites, God will give us leaders that we want, or that or but that not necessarily condoned by God or chosen by God. But God will allow things to happen to to teach us a lesson, to bring us closer to Him for many reasons. But yeah, you're right. The upcoming election in November could become the balagan of all balagans.
Well, let's put it this way. It already is a balagan.
Already has a it could become a balagan with a capital B.
Oh, yeah.
David, thank you so much again. Tell us again, where can people find you?
So,
Is there a .com? Is there a website? Is there, what is it?
well, the Balagan Connection on YouTube.
Okay.
Okay, Balagan, Balagan Connection on YouTube and on Instagram, and David Tal on Facebook is the three kind of chosen rights. And we are going to be together in Temecula on in the conference.
Oh, I can't wait for that conference. It's gonna be exciting. I was gonna say it's gonna be dynamite. It's not a word I want to use right
No,
now.
no.
It's
No.
gonna be exciting. So many good speakers. It's people can find out about it on Hope for Our Times. The name of the conference is the end of the world conference. I talked to Tom about that. I thought it was an interesting title, but we'll all be
Well,
there. I mean, Brandon Oldhouse, Eric Stackelbeck, Daniel Cohen from Newsmax,
Israel.
the Israel correspondent. You are going to speak
I'm
there.
going to be there. You're going to be
I'm going
there.
to speak. I mean, so many people. There's still room, so please go on Tom's site at hopefourtimes.com and register and tell your friends. This is probably going to be one of the best conferences
In the area,
that we've
and
had.
we are probably going to do more of those as the time goes.
Right. All right. David, until next time, which could be as early as tomorrow, depending on what's happening. I appreciate the fact that you were so available and quick to respond, and always kind to give us some of your time to bring some clarity to the Middle East and to
Well,
Israel. So thanks.
thank you for having me. And like we said, just to find it, pray for the shalom of Jerusalem. Pray for
Amen.
the shalom of Israel.
Amen. God bless you. Shalom. And until next time, be blessed.